Let's go, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Matt Miller, coming to you live from Siesta Keys, Florida, usually from St. Louis, Missouri, and we are in the gym, the MindGym Monday. And so as you tune in, I just want to remind everyone of the why. Why are we here? We're here to model consistency. Every day, 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern, other times on the other side. We just want to remind everyone we're showing up every day, and we hope that not only you're showing up or as you're tuning in, that you're also sharing this with others. There's Lane popping in real quick. We want to talk about consistency. There it is. But keep sharing this with others. Keep sharing this with your circle of people. And we know consistency is one of those highly effective strategies we can do. That's why we're here today. And we got our we're lucky to have our room tilter, my buddy, actually the first guy I ever did a live with, Mr. Riise. So Mr. Riise, thank you for joining us. Good to see your face. And as most people know, not only is Andy a West Point grad, career Army officer in the space of helping others, what I know the most about him, his two most important roles, is being a husband and a dad. I know he's had a lot of family time recently. And so, Andy, thank you for joining us today. Great to see your face.
Thanks, brother. Hey, what's up? Limitless Nation, it's great to be with you. It's been a while. Great to be back on here with the lives. Like you said, Matt, it's MindGym Monday. We're all about, getting good reps and sets, about putting in the work, and it's all about practical application, man. I just want to give a shout out to your mustache right now, too, because it is bold, it is live, and it is charged. Do you mind just sharing really quickly for the audience how you lost that bet to grow that masterful manly mustache there?
I knew it was coming because most of you might not know Andy was with the Cincinnati Reds in 2021.
Let's go.
Well, when we logged on early, he's like, dude, what's up with the stash? And I'm like, I lost a bet. And he's like, how's that? Well, as most of you know, I'm a big St. Louis Cardinals fan. I'm down here at the beach and I hang out. Everyone else that I hang out with are Cincinnati Reds fans. And so the bet was whoever is in the lead going into when we arrive, the other guy got to determine the facial hair. So hence the stash. Nobody likes it, but I'm stuck with it here for the next week. So
that thing is awesome. You got to give that a name. That's almost like the Tom Selleck right there. Like,
terrible.
You're looking prime time
hey,
on the beach there.
The only good thing is the stash came back. And so I feel like I'm somewhat in the group.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Kudos.
No regrets though, right? I think one of the things we're going to be talking about here is regret. So like I don't think you regret like growing that thing out at all too. Because a lot of people can't even touch that thing. Like can't even get close to it. And it's like, it's luscious. It's like a salad on your lip.
All right. On to more things. Rocking the stash. Here we go. So with that said, thank you again for joining us. Those of you that are tuning in afterwards, we know this time works on some days and not much like us. Andy and I tune in to our fellow room tilters. And so thank you for joining us. Today's topic, and before we get started, Andy, we always start with the one thing we're grateful for. I'll let you go first. I know you've had some awesome moments lately.
Yeah, I have. It's, the summer obviously is a great time to spend time with your family. And I'm really looking at my wife and who's a teacher and like you are, Matt, and the summertime take advantage, right? Kids are off. So we just went to California, where I'm from. I don't get to get a chance, but to get a chance to go back to California to see my family very often. I'll get into the details here in a minute when we get into the details here, but just had an awesome vacation, had a wedding shower for my nephew who's getting married in Chicago here. So it was a wedding shower, spent some time where I'm from in Oakdale, California on the river. Went to Yosemite National Park. Enjoyed incredible weather there. It was so temperate and cool, and I just had a really great time with them too. So I'm grateful for that opportunity to get back and reconnect with my family in my home state. What about you, Matt?
Love it. Well, those of you tuning in, make sure you're putting in that one thing you're grateful for. We know the power of gratitude and the joy that it brings us. So another highly effective strategy. I'm sitting here on vacation, and again, some people might be like, hey, dude, you're supposed to be on vacation. But these are things that fill my bucket. I wouldn't have missed a chance to be with Andy. So I'm catching the lunchtime. I'm not missing a thing. So everything's good. But just like you said, time with family, friends, and just being on vacation. So family is probably a trend as we see people tune it in. So with that said, I recently did a lab, as most of you know or have been on our app. We get clear, we be here, we embrace the fear, and we shift into gear. And lab 10 is all about shifting into gear and goal setting. And what I love, for those of you that have been with our content, been in the lab, went through some of our trainings, where we start with goal setting is imagining that you're at a retirement party, right? Roll the clock however many more years to that spot. You're obviously celebrating a lot of accomplishments with those you love the most. And then somewhere throughout the night, it's regret sets in. And it might have been, if only I would have reached out to Andy a little bit more, or if only I would have made that bold move that I thought about but never made the move on, right? Or the third one we're going to unpack a little bit is, if only I would have taken better care of myself, right? And so I love that our lab starts with the topic of regret, because anytime you hear regret, it has that negative connotation.
Right.
And actually what we learned through the research that we'll talk about today is regret actually points us to our values. And so when you think of that word regret, what does come to mind, Andy?
When it comes to regret, I think just the things that I look back on that, that really kind of stick to my memory. I call them they're like the calluses and the scars of my mind and my memory, right? That you trip on, that in your subconscious mind, as we know, like 90% of our thoughts are unconscious. It's kind of like the undercurrent, right? Only 10% of our conscious thoughts we're aware of, right? Like we call those our attitudes. So I think about the subconscious things that kind of creep up in your mind that you maybe dream about or you're reminded of. You kind of trip over those things. It's like scars are not a bad thing, right? They're just reminders of a really important thing that we had in our life. So that's what I think of is regrets being kind of like these mental and emotional scars that are based on our experiences that we have too. And I really, just to riff off what you said too, I mean, I don't call it goal setting, I call it goal pursuit. And the reason why is that's more about the process, and so the way I describe it, to hit on what you're talking about, is like, all right, I'm developing a roadmap for my success and for my team success. If you're a leader, you're running an organization, but I think it's, you need to be able to leverage that internal compass and to be able to know where you're at. Because we don't have an internal GPS, right? That's telling us where we're going and where our waypoints are and when we're going to get there. We don't have that, but we do have a built-in compass. And that moral compass, it really starts with our values and belief system, which I love on that too. So Matt, can you what's the connection between regret and values? Like, what does that look like for you?
Love it. And so those of you that have been tuning in, I've kind of been on this topic for the last couple of months, because I think as coaches, as room tilters, what Andy and I try to do in the most simplest of ways is that pursuit that you're on. And what is the cadence that we constantly are keeping in front of us so we don't have regrets, right? And the only way we do that is to put in these cadences of accountability to ensure that. And so, Mari, if you'll put up that one visual, I have been using this visual. It comes out of Daniel Pink's work, The Power of Regret. And so anytime I have a topic that I really hit on, I look to where the current research is. And he just unpacked a wealth of research and a study on regret, over 16,000 submissions. And they basically came down to these four. And those of you that have been tuning in last couple of months know I've been referencing this. The three we're going to talk about today and just unpack again, because what I've realized is anybody that I'm working with has a connection regret. There's somebody on their mind, either personally or professionally, that they know they need to reach out to, that they're not. Okay.
Yep.
Going from bottom to top, boldness. There's something that's still on our minds that we're like, I need to make that move, either personally or professionally, right? I need to take that chance. And there's something that's getting me stuck there. And then the last one that I love that, Andy, you're a part of today, is just that foundation regret, which is, if only I'd done the work. And what we know is true to those later in life, it's like, if only I'd have taken better care of myself. And I think summer provides us a time to do that. And so, Mari, thanks for putting that visual up. And so, again, what we're talking about is values, right? We're clear on what our values are and how are they pointing us, and regret reminds us of that. And so the first one I want to talk about, Andy, is this connection regret. Either personally or professionally. I'll let you go either way, and then I'll to use your term, riff off of you.
Yeah.
But when you think of a connection, if only I had reached out, is there a
Right.
story or either personally or professionally that comes to mind that either you need to reach out to, or it's one that
Right.
you've recently done?
Yeah. I'm not going to get into the details because it's kind of personal to me too, but this really hit the core for me when we talked Friday, Matt. So again, I talked about that family reunion that was built into that um, wedding, the wedding shower that was in California, and saw a close family member that I haven't seen or talked to in almost a decade. Right. And, I was really close to this person at one point in time. And there was, we had some friction that, had led to a falling out, and we just stopped talking. Right. And then life got in the way. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, there's a separation of time and space, and no one person. It's kind of like this Cold War, right? Remember the US and USSR, toward like this standoff, right? To when no one's reaching out and making a move, right? But there's this buildup that's happening, right? The divide is palpable. And so that happened, right? And for me, when I saw that person, it wasn't the time or place to be able to make amends. As much as I tried to not make it awkward, I tried to lean into it. I tried to take a page out of Hannah Pryor's book and lean into that awkwardness and the discomfort that I talk about. But it was clearly one of those things where, I wish that we could, how do we move forward? And so since that time, I've been really racking my brain, about like, so one of my core values that it trips over is about love, right? And not just, there's different, the Greeks talk about 6 different types of love, and this one, like one of them is like agape love, right? But this is like the family type of love, right? It's not just one type of love. There's all kinds of layers of love. So for me, it was like the fact that I was not living that value by reaching out, and you try to be the bigger person. And we often talk about that, and you regret not being the bigger person. But the reality is, right, I didn't know how to take the right step to be able to extend that olive branch, And so for me, since I've gotten home, I'm committed to figuring that piece out and relying on people that I trust and know, like you, to be able to, hey, how do I take the next right step towards that small victory, like we talk about in Limitless Minds? And that's sometimes all it takes. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I know I can live with myself because I took the right step forward. So that's my thing. It's probably a combination of foundation and connection there as well too. But that's the one that I'm thinking about right now.
Love it. So, thank you for sharing that, because you telling a personal story now has hopefully empowered others. Those of you tuning in would love to hear what, as you think of a connection regret, either personally or professionally, who's somebody that you need to reach out to.
Yeah.
And here's what we know is when it comes to relationships and connections, the only thing that's in our circle of control is what we can do, right? But too many times we let whatever get in the way, and we're like, you know what? I'm going to wait for Andy to reach out. I'm going to wait for him to say sorry. I'm going to wait for him to say I love you. And we can wait a really long time because waiting on someone else is outside our circle of control.
Yeah.
And so what Andy modeled is, all right, I'm going to figure out what's in my circle, and I'm going to figure out what my next step is when it comes to that connection. And here's what I know. Everyone has somebody, either personally, professionally, that they're like, you know what, I need to reach out. Mari, who's behind the scenes here at Limitless Minds, I asked her, like, give me a highlight of a connection. She just huddled up with girls ladies that she hasn't seen in like 2 years from high school or college, or I don't know if it was high school or college. So my apologies, I'm getting that wrong, probably, Mari. But what did it take? One person to be like, hey, 2 years have gone by. We haven't seen each other. Let's get together, right? Which kind of leads us into this next topic, which is boldness, which is, if only I'd taken the chance. And so as you think of that boldness piece, and some of that is obviously connected to connection regret, right? Like some of that plays off. But when you think of boldness, what do you think of?
Yeah, I just want to throw, Mari, if you could throw up Lane's real quick too. I want to answer your question, but I want to point out Lane made a great comment here too. Again, thanks for showing up and showing out, Lane, here as well too, about putting things in perspective, right? So he talked about his mentor, this idea of having these moments as they're ones that teach us, right? They're teachable moments if we choose to see them that way, right? But like you said, Matt, our perception doesn't match the reality, and sometimes we have these things called heuristics that are mental shortcuts that sometimes blow things up, that make them much bigger than they are, right? Especially when time passes. There's that saying that time heals all wounds, and it's true because our memory works in our favor when it comes to that. So why focus on the past? Let's focus on the now and next. and so I think that's what I'm focusing on here as well too. But we're talking about the question was about boldness, right, Matt?
Yeah. What's coming up on your calendar, or
Yeah.
something that that in your business and what you're trying to grow and so forth, where are you putting your energy to just be super bold in the next couple weeks?
Yeah. So, I mean, I started my own business design to perform last year too. Like a lot of us here in Limitless Minds who are room tilters, right? We work with as partners with Limitless Minds too, but it's on a part-time contract basis, right? We love being a part of this world-class team, right? But we also have our own ventures. So being an entrepreneur, like newsflash, is really hard. And I've really struggled with that in the first year. And there's a reason why most businesses fail, especially within their first 24 months, right? Because it is really hard, right? It feels like Sisyphus, that myth of pushing the rock up the mountain only for it to roll back down. Definitely experienced that this first year, and I'm really passionate about working with youth athletes and building working with that population, because I feel like mental skills needs to be in the hands of the people who need it the most. So one of my missions, like, Limitless Minds, and why I'm so aligned with us here, is we're trying to democratize mental skills training, right? But I really miss being with pro sports, right? I spent some time with them with the NFL and Major League Baseball, and I want to get back into that world again. I want to get back into that arena because I feel like you learn so much that you could bring to other populations. So recently, starting to work with NFL clients, which can be really intimidating, right? I played football, I love football. I'm a fan, and so when you're working with people who are like general managers of NFL teams and you're having conversations and you're having to keep calling them over and over again, I don't know about y'all, but I challenge, I rate really high on persistence, right? But at the same time, there's a fine line between being persistent and a pest, as my mom used to say. And so being able to pick up the phone and constantly text and staying after people who are really, really busy and are really high powered, that has been a big, bold move for me. And I guess so far it's paid off. It hasn't borne a lot of fruit yet, but I mean, it's incrementally, it's sort of starting to get there. So that's been a big, bold move for me, is to get back into pro sports. What about you, Matt?
So I want to label, as those of you that are listening in to what Andy just modeled, is we think of that bold move, and then what takes over? Our self-talk. And the saboteur always shows up, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't reach out. Now I'm being a pest. And so forth. So then the saboteur says, oh no, you can't do it. The sage is over here being quiet, right?
Yeah.
And so I just say that because we talk about inner dialogue a lot, and your self-talk, and we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anyone else. And it's 10 times more powerful, and all those pieces. But like, it's true. And Andy and I, being in this content every single day, are still wrestling with exactly that, right? And so how do we stay bold and continue to say, what's my next right step? And so, Andy, to your point, same pieces. And again, those of you tuning in, we've unpacked first connection to regret. Who do you need to reach out to personally or professionally? Talking about boldness right now. What's a move in the next couple of weeks that you just need to make, either personally or professionally? Usually mine are personal, but I'll share my connection and bold are both professional as well. In the connection piece that kind of relates to the other, I have a client, and I keep in touch with the CEO on a pretty regular basis. How can I best support you and so forth? And I felt like, to your point, that the weekly text, I was pestering him, right? And if you go unanswered 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, oh, there's my sign, right? I shouldn't be texting him. So I'm like, I'm not going to text him this week, right? Well, thankfully, about 3 weeks ago, I did text him, just be like, hey, man, just checking in, seeing what's new. What do you got this weekend? And he goes, well, ironically, I'm going to be at my alma mater in northern Iowa and so forth. I'm like, me too. And so I say all that because we ended up having coffee for an hour on his campus and just had the most beautiful catch up that actually led to just some great next steps within his organization.
Right.
That would have never happened if I wouldn't have sent the text to say, hey, what's up? What do you have this weekend? Something as simple as that, right? Would never have, and who knows then what that conversation will lead to, which leads into boldness, like you just said as well.
Yeah.
I recently just reached out to, again, a leader that's growing his business. And I was like, hey, what's your goals in the next couple months? And he's like, why you ask? Because I'm like, because if you don't have to use your term, a pursuit and a compass, you need a coach. And I know one, right?
Right.
Well,
a guide. I need a guide. Yeah.
I need a guide. So sure enough, we just inked a deal. We're going to be working together for the coming year. But it took me
Yep.
being bold enough to be like, hey, let's go, reach out, make the move. And so then, so I just remind everyone tuning in, personally or professionally, where's something in the next couple weeks that you're going to make to take that next step to be like, listen, I just need to get in my circle of what I have control of, and what's my next right step.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to just pull on the
Go.
thread a little bit too. This is kind of a really good practical application, right? So limitless minds, folks, like you were talking about, you can take each one of these categories. Think about that stoplight thinking that we talk about, and bringing in a couple of models here from the late great Dr. Ken Ravizza, and also our founder Trevor Moawad, the late great Trevor Moawad as well too. So green light thinking is that positive thoughts, right? We got the negative thinking, which then defeats the negative thoughts, right? Those are built into us, right? And they're not all bad. There's pros and cons. And there's the neutral thinking, which is very unique to us as far as we do. And whenever you have that gut feeling, the yellow light of that neutral thinking is going to tell you to speed up, to go through the intersection, or to slow down, right? And I think what we have both modeled here is that you have to listen to your gut in terms of what all that sensory information is telling you in order to make a decision to take the next best step, right? So if your gut is telling you to speed up, then speed up, hit the accelerator. Let's go. Let's get to green. But if you need to slow down a little bit, do that too. But that takes practice. It takes awareness, and it takes regulation in real time to be able to do that, right? So again, think about that stoplight model you can apply right now. So think about it. I'd love to hear you in the chat. Like, what do you, when it comes to boldness, like, how are you hitting the accelerated button to go from yellow to green? And how are maybe you slowing down in your yellow light too, to maybe to be able to assess some risks and recalibrate where you're at right now. So I wanted to hit on that. And what's the third thing? We talked about connection. We talked about we're talking about boldness, and now we're talking about foundation, right, Matt?
Yeah. And so thank you for the stoplight. I've used that in like when it comes to hitting the pause button and listening, like when emotions are high. Red light, like say less, right? Just be quiet. Yellow, when emotions get a little bit calmed down, we can start maybe asking some clarifying questions. And listening's a whole nother skill we'll unpack some other time. But I love how you just connected neutral to that, and how to get to that. Like you said, we're going green and so forth. And every time I hear like red light, it reminds me of Trevor always reminding us, it's not so much of continuing to add next steps, but like, what are you saying no to? And what are some things maybe that you need to stop doing? So anytime so you help me there. And again, where are we at today? MindGym Monday, right? And so we've just naturally unpacked self-talk, not only regret, but now getting to neutral and assessing. Do I need to slow down? Do I need to speed up? And hopefully some of this is pointing you to, I need to reach out. I need to take the chance, which leads us to the third one, which is foundation regret. And what they found in this recent study, again, with Daniel Pink, is the question of, if only I'd done the work. And mainly what that led to, what that category was more than anything, is if only I'd taken better care of myself. So in the summer where, hopefully people have a little bit more time, weather's maybe a little bit better, those of you in the north and so forth. What's one thing you're doing, Andy, to really take care of you? I know you you do a pretty good job of this from what I know, but what's a foundation piece that you're really keeping in front of you?
Yeah, I appreciate that too, because it's consistency. Like everybody, humans are, really unpredictable, and it's really hard to be consistent. So have that combination of discipline and motivation. Discipline's about compliance, and motivation is about commitment, right? How do I bring that together to accomplish my goals? Like I know for me, staying physically fit is really important, not only for my own mental and emotional health and well-being, but like to do it with a team. And so for me, I've been on, if you guys don't know my story, I've been on this triathlon journey. I call myself a trifathlete. I'm definitely a Clydesdale. Crashed my bike, missed my first triathlon after training. Got back on the saddle again in April. I finished triathlon. I barely did okay on the swim, crushed the 56-mile bike. This is a half Ironman triathlon. And, crushed the bike, PR'd the bike. And then I was really slow on the run. So my regret on that was and I barely made the cutoff to finish. And I finished, and I was happy that I did. But looking back on that regret was man, had I only put in a little bit more work on the run, then, I would have been, probably made it, a lot faster time. So again, looking back on that, I did my after action review, reflected on that, looked at the feedback, took it to feed forward, and I also love the fact that I did it with a group of guys that I really enjoyed it. One of it was a guy who was a veteran triathlete. Another one was a new one. And so I'm doing another triathlon, going back to where I started in Waco this fall. And I don't know if you pay attention, but it's hot right now, especially here in Southeast Texas. And it's uncomfortable, right? I just got done camping. And I'm like, man, the last thing I want to do is go run and bike. Swimming's probably okay. But, last thing I want to do is run and bike, in this heat, right? Because it's like 90 degrees, even like early in the morning. So, but again, I reconnected with my friends who want to do Waco with me. I've got two great guys who are veterans I'm going to do it with. We're both going to we're all three of us going to hold each other accountable. We got a plan. And this week I'm starting to train again. And I can't wait. I'm really, really excited, right? And I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to take another best step towards, finishing with a faster time and really taking that first experience and moving from feed back to feed forward. Because, to me, the value that I'm reflecting is competition, which is to me is about the process of making yourself better so you can then better influence others to get better. So that makes you a better servant leader. And so that's what for me, that's a really foundational thing that I'm, reconstituting this week too, man. What about you, Matt?
So again, want to highlight a highly effective practice that Andy just naturally, and then I was trying to write down all the things he would say, feed back to feed forward and all and so forth. But what did he do right there at the end? He connected it back to his value. Yep. And so when we're in MindGym Monday, the first thing you should have in front of you somewhere this week is what are those core values that you're leaning into? And does my work, both personally and professionally, connect back to love and all those pieces that Andy just said? And so I was smiling, you telling your triathlon story. I'm here on vacation, and my daughter just flew in. My daughter is the first 4-year NCAA women's triathlete. You and I have talked about that, right? So in 2016, they 2016 they started women's triathlon, and she had the honor to be a 4-year triathlete. Won the national title in 2017. Got to give a little shout out to North Central College in Naperville, Missouri, or Naperville, Illinois. But mine is not as strenuous as yours, but it's getting up and getting that morning walk and getting my 10,000 steps in.
Yeah.
And so those of you where we're pushing here, whatever it may be foundational, what we know is true that Andy just modeled, and what I'm trying to model is we're not going to just sit here and get motivated, right? We need to move. That creates the momentum, that creates the motivation. And so those of you tuning in, like, what are you doing to take care of you? It's the oxygen mask first, right? Anybody that's jumping on a flight this summer, it's going to be the first thing they tell you, right? Oxygen mask on first, then help others. Right. And that's why we're all here, is to build consistency, to be in the MindGym Monday. And so, Andy, last thing as we get to the top of the hour.
Yep. Pick
one. Might be connection, might be boldness, might be foundation. But as you look at your week this week, what's your biggest what's one next right step that you're truly committing to this week?
Just to start. I just want to start and get momentum going, right, on several projects that are going on right now too. Because again, kind of going back, we tend to pole vault over mouse turds, like I said too. So don't make it, understand you don't need a pole vault to go over mouse turd, right? Sometimes you just need to start. Right. If you take that one minute step forward, knowing that progress is not linear, right, you're going to gain that inertia is going to gain momentum. Right. And then who looks back once they start something, whether they fail or they lose, and doesn't regret, at least that they tried. Right. So I either win or I learn. I never lose. And that's kind of what I'm saying to myself this week.
So I'm glad you just said that, because in all the research with regret that we started today, we seldom regret action. What we regret is inaction.
Yep.
And so today's topic, more than anything, is how we continue to take the next right step, right? And as Andy said, just keep moving. And so we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tomorrow to Transformational Tuesday. Those of you that are consistent with us, keep being consistent, keep sharing, and let's continue to build this family to continue to take those next right steps. So my name is Matt Miller. This is Andy Riise. Hope you choose to have a great rest of the week. Have a great one. Fist. Let's go.